Shazam and the possibility of Justice Society cameos. We'll discuss that a bit. The best director Oscar winners, the Daniels, are officially on board. They're directing at least one, maybe a couple of episodes of the upcoming Star Wars series, Skeleton Crew. And speaking of Star Wars, another one bites the dust. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Joining me here today, we got Ray Ora back there running the shows, of course, Jonathan Voico. We got Taylor Gonzalez here. And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of today's show, even though it's running a little bit late for those of you guys who are watching live. Our apologies for that. And listen, we do have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it into two parts. First part of the show, we're going to talk about some predetermined topics. Second part of the show, we're going to take your questions. If you guys have a question for the show, you can fire it in anytime, 24/7, at our tip link down below. You can see it right here at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. We'll get through a whole ton of them, and if we run out of time, we'll just answer the rest of them in our open mic a little bit later today. All right, guys, with all that down, let's get right into it because we got a full show here today. And the first thing up is this. You know, with Last of Us and, you know, upcoming, we've got God of War coming up. There seems to maybe be a hope, nay, a dream, that maybe, finally, we could be entering into a golden age of good video game adaptations. For too long, 30 years. Well, when did the Super Mario movie come out? When did that Bob Hoskins Super Mario?
I mean, that was
like 40 years
90s,
ago.
Yeah, I mean,
like for 40 years, my brothers and sisters, we have dwelled in darkness, waiting for something to happen. There came a time when there was a Assassin's Creed and a World of Warcraft movie were coming, and we thought, lo, salvation is nigh. We are now going to be ushering in a golden age of comic book movies. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I still kind of like the Warcraft movie. I did. But the Assassin's Creed movie sucked, and we were plunged right back into the darkness. And we have waited and waited and waited. And now we got Last of Us. We got this new Mario Brothers movie coming that looks great. God of War's on the rises. Well, one of the movies that video game fans have been really anticipating is the Netflix project of Gears of War. Now, they've been talking about it for a long time. But it appears now that they have some movement as the Dune 2 and the first Doctor Strange writer has come on board. John Spates has come on board, and he will be the writer of the upcoming movie. This comes just from the folks over at Variety, who write the following. Netflix's live-action adaptation of their popular video game Gears of War has moved one step closer as Academy Award-nominated screenwriter John Spates is board of the project. Best known for co-writing Dune, Dune Part 2, and Doctor Strange. Spates, not to be confused with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Spates will now take on the challenge of adapting Gears of War, one of gaming's richest and most acclaimed video game sagas with over 40 million copies sold. This is pretty important, and I'll tell you why. Because I think with things like Mario Brothers looking like it's going to be a huge success, fingers crossed it's good. With The Last of Us being not just one of the best video game things, I mean, one of the best things that's been on TV in a long time. I think now you're going to start attracting higher caliber people to get involved with this stuff. And you know, as you look over his resume, let's go over and take a look at this. Space has done some really interesting stuff. Now, of course, he did Dune, which won more Academy Awards last year than any other movie. He also did Tom Cruise's The Mummy, but he did The Story By. And you know what? I am one of the people that says that Mummy movie wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. I thought there were some redeeming qualities about that movie. I didn't think it was a good movie, but I thought there were some redeeming things about it. Then you get down to Passengers, which was a really neat idea for a movie. Didn't work for me, to be honest. Doctor Strange. Listen, Prometheus, I'm not a fan of Prometheus, but that was a really interesting screenplay. Like the story with it maybe not have executed the way I kind of wanted, but that was a really, really interesting screenplay. So you've got a guy here who has shown he can do a lot of really interesting things with the screenplay. And going into Gods of War, if you're a fan of that series, if you're a fan of that franchise,
Gears of War. Gears of War.
What did I say?
Gods of War.
Did I say Gods of War? Sorry, two big ones coming. But Gears of War. If you're a fan of Gears of War, I think you got to take this as good news right now. I think this is a really big plus. Now, this is one of the games that I never played, right? I mean, granted, I'm not much of a console player, but I've still at least tried most of them. Gears of War is one I've never done. Now, Taylor, you said you are quite familiar with Gears of War. What's your elevator pitch on this thing? Like, what's the basic idea for Gears of War?
If I was in an elevator and I had to pitch Gears of War, I would just say guns with chainsaws attached to it. It is so much fun. That series, it came out when I was in high school, and I lost so many hours of my life to that series. The second one, Gears of War 2, is my favorite because it introduced Horde mode, which kind of looks like this. You would build barriers, build barricades, turrets, stuff like that, and then just like hordes and waves and waves.
So you kind of make choke points and stuff like that?
It's like an alien invasion.
Yeah.
Just an alien invasion with just like the unique weapon of having a chainsaw on the gun was the real pull towards the game.
Because isn't that on like all the marketing images I've ever seen? The chainsaw on the gun?
That's their baby. But I'm telling you, all the movies you said he's been a part of, I'm not gonna lie. I liked all those movies. So this is good news to me. So
yeah, listen, a whole ton of people really like Prometheus.
I like Prometheus.
And there's a lot of people who like Passengers.
Mummy, I like Passengers. I like that.
There you go.
Bad to me.
So this is a good day for you.
Yeah. Well, until they said Netflix.
Yeah.
Until they said Netflix. Tell me one good sci-fi movie that was a Netflix original. I did like the Bright movie with Will Smith and I thought that was okay.
That was all right. All right. I didn't like it all that much.
Tell me a big property that Netflix has done, like where that would probably use a bunch of effects. I guess this movie should have a lot of effects.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. This might be their first big dip into like a video game.
Let me give you something that maybe you can have a little bit of hope over. Remember, Netflix has been experimenting a little bit with the idea of theatrical because they did it with Glass Onion, right? And look, I'm not sitting here telling you that Netflix is going to put this out theatrically. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's not completely outside of the realm of possibility that they may approach this as a theatrical release kind of movie, especially if it's going to be as expensive to make. I think as maybe some people suspect it might be, that maybe they'll look at recouping like maybe $50, $100 million by doing a quick theatrical release. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's probably just going to go direct. And you're right. I can't think of a single original sci-fi movie they've done that I've really liked. And maybe there has if I thought about it more. Yeah. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? The Dune writer is now boarding Gears of War. Are you looking forward to this? Do you like the match? I think if you're a fan of the game, you got to be happy about this. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's go on to this, shall we? You know, whenever money is involved, relationships can get strained. We've seen that in Hollywood all the time. Now, you take something like, I don't know, what's something that just brings a smile to everybody's face when you bring it up? Something along the lines of a Princess Bride, right? Everybody gets happy.
Chocolate.
Oh,
no. No, it does.
Do you
what?
mean
chocolate doesn't make you guys
talking
happy?
about movies? Movies.
Oh, movies.
I thought you were talking about chocolat.
Like teddy bears. No, we mean movies.
Teddy bears, rainbows, taste the rainbow. But one of those movies that I think everybody just gets happy when you think about it is Mean Girls.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't even go here. Everybody loves Mean Girls.
Classic.
Maybe some more than others, but everybody loves Mean Girls. Well, according to a new report, the actual original author who created Mean Girls and the book that it was based and the book that the movies was based on is now suing Paramount Studio many, many years later over the whole thing. Author Rosalind Wiseman is basically taking them to court and suing them for a couple things. Number one, she's suing them because, hey, listen, the movie was big, successful. It's a big part of the pop cultural zeitgeist. You did a Broadway musical about it. Now you're doing another movie based on the musical that's based on the movie that's based on the book and all that kind of stuff. and I'm not getting any money for this. So she's suing them over that. And also the fact that, Hollywood is well known for its creative accounting, where it's like, oh no, our movie didn't make any money, so there's no profits to share. Well, anyway, she is now taking them to court. And in one hand, I think she has a case, and in another hand, I don't think she does. Because this is the basic thing. I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs here to give you an idea what's going on. Mean Girls screenwriter and star Tina Fey, who later adapted the movie into a 2018 Broadway musical and now an upcoming movie musical, purchased the rights to Wiseman's Queen Bees. That's what the movie's based on, that book, after reading the New York Times Magazine cover story interview with her. When I met to meet Tina, this is the original author talking. When I went to meet Tina and producer Lorne Michaels many years ago, it was very much a we're doing this together kind of experience, Wiseman said, citing that the business partnership aspect is what led her to select the duo over other production offers. She added, we created this thing. Tina took my words. She did an extraordinary job with it. She brought it to life, and the material has been used and recycled for the last 20 years. I'm clearly recognized and acknowledged by Tina as the source material, the inspiration. I'm recognized, and yet I deserve nothing? Now, we often talk on this show about it ain't what you deserve, it's what you negotiate, right? Now, back in the day, Tina Fey paid $400,000. $400,000 for the right. Now, this is 20 years ago. $400,000 for the rights to the book and anything else that would come after it. And to be clear and fair, the author accepted the deal. She gave up all rights in exchange for nearly $500,000 for the movie rights to her book.
Is this anything like the Top Gun Paramount lawsuit that we just
had to do with an article.
No, that had to do with an article and getting rights back and all that kind of stuff. So now the person kind of acknowledges this because she said this. We go back to the article here, and she said the following: yes, I had a terrible contract. Terrible. Well, you signed it. You negotiated it and you signed it. Yes, I had a terrible contract, but the movie has made so much money and they keep recycling my work over and over again. So not to even consider me, she said Wiseman was approached by a theater company to make a Mean Girls musical, but Tina Fey and Paramount turned it down and then came out with their own musical on Broadway years later, which of course they had the right to do. Wiseman was not paid for the musical, with Paramount claiming that she had no ownership of the rights, which they were right about. Now, this is an issue, guys, that comes up a bunch in Hollywood, and I take the very unpopular position on this, but here's what it is. You're the book author. You had the right. Nobody came and stole the rights away from you. They made you an offer. You had the option to say, actually, to counteroffer and to come up with a deal that you felt good about at the time. And the deal you landed on was $400,000, which I need to go through my calendar, but yeah, no, there it is. I've never been paid $400,000 for anything in my life. Not one thing has somebody came up and cut me a check for $400,000. So you made that deal.
Yep.
And I would propose this. If Tina Fey and Paramount had gone ahead and made Mean Girls, and then it flopped, and they lost $100 million, or let's say $50 million. Let's say which they didn't, but let's say they did. If they had gone ahead and made that movie and lost $50 million, would she have gone back to them? Would the author have gone back to them and said, you know what? You took a risk on my book and you lost money. Here, let me give you some of my $400,000 back. None of us would do that. We say, no, suckers, we made a deal. You pay me $400,000. I keep my money. I'm sorry you lost $50 million. Sorry about that, but I'm keeping that. I don't think, listen, if you didn't put it in your deal and you said, yeah, you give me $400,000, I give you clean all the rights. You have all the rights to it. Then I'm sorry. Why would Paramount come back? Because once they were successful, I mean, if they failed, you wouldn't have given any money back. So if they're successful, I don't see why Paramount needs to come to you and say, let's give you some more money when we're the ones who took all the risk. Now, here's where it gets more complicated, though. According to her lawyer, there is another issue which was, as a part of that contract, she was supposed to get some of the profit. I don't think it was a huge amount of it, but she was entitled to certain points on the movie if the movie was profitable. That was negotiated in the contract. And of course, creative Hollywood bookkeeping, they came up with a way to make it look like this movie made no money. Therefore, they owed her nothing. Now, on that, she's got a point.
Especially,
on that.
especially because of the musical, right? Isn't that something?
I don't think the musical figures into it because she didn't negotiate rights for anything else that came after it. But I think she negotiated that she would get certain points if the movie made money. I don't think after 20 years and the amount of success this film has had that you can make an argument that this thing has not turned a profit in over 20 years. And that's when I think, yeah, you lawyer up and now what will she be entitled to? Was it in the contract that she's only entitled to profit it makes in its original theatrical run? I don't know. Is it in her contract that she gets to a percentage of the profit over the lifetime of the movie? I don't know. But I think she's smart to lawyer up and go to court and say, listen, this movie has not as much as Princess Bride, but this movie has become as part of the cultural zeitgeist as most movies you can name. Who doesn't know this scene? Who doesn't know she doesn't even go here? I mean, come on. So on the one hand, her complaining that, well, they just keep doing all this stuff with it and they're not giving me any more money. I actually don't think she has a case there because she made the deal. But when it comes to points on profits, yeah, you lawyer up and you go and get what you deserve. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this kind of unfolds. So I bet, look, we didn't rehearse this. I don't know what any of these three clowns over here are going to say. Everybody seems to have a favorite line from Mean Girls, right? So Taylor, you got a favorite line from Mean Girls?
Probably on Wednesdays we wear pink or October 3rd.
I see. He had several
Yeah.
waiting around the top. But mine is always she doesn't even go here. I mean, like, come on, people know this movie. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The original creator of the Mean Girls novel, Queen Bees, I think it was called, is taking Paramount to court to try to get what she feels she's owed. Do you sympathize with her? Do you think, no, it's too late? I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that countdown, guys, let's move on to this. The world of DC, I don't know if you've heard, guys, is in a little bit of disarray at the moment. And I'm not talking because Shazam, Fury of the Gods, a movie which I really like and I don't care who knows it. I think this movie was a hell of a lot of fun. And I think David Sandberg made a really, really good, fun movie. Not quite as good as the first one, but I thought he made a really good, fun movie. However, doesn't matter if I really liked it. It did flop hard. And with the seemingly kind of struggles, let's say, of Black Adam and all these things going on. And on top of that, a huge turnover is happening. There's a brand new CEO, two brand new CEOs. They're going to be relaunching their new vision for DC in 2025. There's lots of stuff going on, but a lot of question marks in the air. Who could come back? Who could be extended? Who won't come back? Whatever. Well, co-CEO of DC, James Gunn, who some fans love how active he is on Twitter and responds to stuff. I actually think he's a little too active and maybe should reel it in. But a viewer on Twitter, a follower on Twitter specifically asked him, are you going to work with Margot Robbie again? Pretty straight direct question. So here's the tweet here. Will you work with Margot Robbie again? To which James Gunn very simply, succinctly, and just said, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
Now, if anything, we movie fans never try to read into things. We are a level-headed, calm, analytical group that never tries to dig
She's
into
gonna
things.
be Superman.
Or never tries to dig into things for hidden meanings. Well, obviously, as movie fans, we're looking at that and going, well, what does that mean for sure? On the one hand, probably the more logical, sane part of our brains is going, he's simply saying that he loves working with Margot Robbie, which we know he does. And that, hey, he's got another 40 years of his career ahead of him. Yeah, I'll work with Margot Robbie again. Doesn't necessarily mean DC, but I'll work with Margot Robbie again. Of course, a lot of us, and even a part of my brain, the movie fan part of my brain, goes, did he just confirm to us that with all the turnover, Dwayne's not coming back as Black Adam, Henry's not coming back as Superman, Ben's not coming back as Batman. In the midst of all that, are we saying that Margot Robbie would come back and that he has plans for Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn? Now, I'll say this. While I did not like Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, I think it's the only DC movie I gave a negative review to. I think I've literally given positive reviews to every single other DC film. What can I say? I like the movies. I did not like this one. But even with that said, I love her in the role of Harley Quinn. I think she's great as Harley Quinn. I've loved her since the first Suicide Squad movie in that role. And while I may not have liked Birds of Prey, I would personally still really be down to see her. Now, I get it. Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn in the upcoming Elseworlds kind of movie,
right.
The Joker Part 2. And I'm sure she's going to be a great version of Harley Quinn. I don't expect to see the Harley Quinn that we have in the animated show out of Lady Gaga. And I don't think we can expect to see the Margot Robbie version of Harley Quinn with Lady Gaga. But it's just like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is not like any other Joker we've seen before. So it's going to be a version. But speaking of our general perception of Harley Quinn, I think Margot Robbie is a great fit. And I would, all other things being equal, I would love to see Margot Robbie continue to play Harley Quinn. But again, that's if all other things being equal. It does raise a lot of questions, though, about, listen, there's going to be a ton of challenges coming up with people saying, how the hell do you keep Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but you get rid of my boy, Henry Cavill, my boy Blue, or in Blue, I should say. Henry Cavill, how do you not have Henry still around? You know, hey, James, and everybody knows I'm a self-admitted James Gunn fanboy. I am. But hey, James, I notice your wife keeps popping up in all these movies. Where's Henry?
Get my wife's name out your
damn mouth. But I mean, and I like her, by the way. I like James Gunn's wife.
For me, it's going to be hard because let's say if Lady Gaga kicks this role, like kicks ass.
Like Joaquin Phoenix did?
Yeah. It'll be hard for me to separate them. It's like, I don't think they're going to do anything right now, especially with Harley Quinn and her, because of the Lady Gaga and the Joker too. It just would be a little too confusing, I think, for some people.
I mean, I don't know. They still brought in, like, even with his Joker out there, they still had Leto's Joker come back, right?
True.
Now, granted, to be fair, that was like for one scene. So maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, we're going to have a Batman in DC and a Batman in Matt Reeves's movies. But you're right. I mean, like, at what point do you say it's too much?
And she's not exactly a cornerstone of DC. She's a popular character. But she's not one of the pedestal, like Wonder Woman, Batman. I think they're concentrating on those right now. It can't really.
I agree. So I don't know. Taylor, let me ask you. You hear James Gunn say for sure. Is he talking about, I'll work with her sometime in the future? Or was he implying to DC fans that we can expect to see her as Harley Quinn again?
A trilogy announced, honestly.
Oh my God.
No, I think she'll be back as Harley Quinn. And I kind of feel like we're going to see her sooner than you guys might be thinking.
You think?
There's a possibility she could show up in Joker 2 Folie à Deux, because there's going to be some batshit crazy stuff going on in that movie. And I could see a total dream sequence, hallucination, something where Gaga's Harley Quinn and
you think
Margot
Todd
Robbie...
Phillips would do that? Does that sound like something Todd Phillips would do?
I think this movie is going to have stuff that we are not even thinking
because of the
happening.
mental aspect?
Yeah, just because of what
hallucinations
the story is going to be. I just could totally
God,
see
that
her
would
just
kind of be funny if they
daydreaming
did.
about...
I don't think so.
I don't think there's any chance in hell that happens, but I will say that would be pretty funny.
On eggs?
Oh my God. But I mean, it would be funny if they did. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Are you one of the crazy people, like part of my brain? You think James Gunn just confirmed a trilogy of Harley Quinn movies? What do you think he meant by for sure? Do you think he just simply meant, state of fact, sometime in the future I'll work with her again? Or do you think he was kind of implying that we're going to see her back as Harley Quinn some more? Would you even want to see her back as Harley Quinn some more? I personally would. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. This was shocking. A really surprising piece of news came out yesterday, because when we look at DC and Warner Brothers, we have come to expect chaos. because to be fair, and again, I've only ever given a negative review to one DC movie, my thing. I like all of them. But between ownership changes, CEO changes, studio head changes, like direction changes, all that kind of stuff, we have come to expect that of Warner Brothers and DC because that's what their history has been for the past 10 years. So we've come to expect it. What we have not come to expect is that from Marvel, which other than one temporary swap out of CEOs of Disney from the two Bobs, it's been Kevin Feige at the helm. It's been one direction. It's been some phases better than others, but still, it's been a consistency, right? I think it's fair to say that. There's been a consistency at Marvel. One of the key cornerstones of that consistency for 17 years, since Marvel's offices were above a car dealership, was the executive Victoria Alonso. So much so that some time ago, when there were some discussions going about, hey, when Kevin Feige ultimately does decide to leave, who's the heir apparent? And one of the names that came up a lot was Victoria Alonso. Victoria Alonso has worked her way in the company 17 years, from a co-producer to executive producing all of Marvel's films for the last decade or more, ever since the first Avengers movie. So going back more than a decade. She's been the executive producer there. And yesterday, blindsidingly, out of nowhere, comes the announcement that Victoria Alonso, in this totally steady Marvel ship, was now gone. This comes from the folks at the Hollywood Reporter. Let me read this at length a little bit. Victoria Alonso, the longtime and high-profile Marvel Studios executives whose time with the company dates back to the first Iron Man movie, has left the studio, multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. Now, apparently this has now been confirmed. The reason for the exit is unclear, but she parted ways with Marvel on Friday, sources say. Alonso had been with the company since the earliest days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, establishing an enviable 17-year run and watching the studio grow from operating above a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Beverly Hills to being acquired by Disney during her tenure. The MCU became the highest-grossing franchise in film history. Alonso joined the studio in 2006 as the chief of visual effects and post-production and helped launch the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a co-producer in 2008's Iron Man. She also served as the co-producer in Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America: The First Avenger. Alonso was then up to executive producer on The Avengers in 2012, the landmark film that grossed $1.5 billion and took Marvel to new heights, and proving that the concept of a shared cinematic universe can really work. Alonso also served as the executive producer on Marvel's subsequent releases, also worked on his Disney Plus TV series. In 2021, she was promoted to president of physical production and post-production, visual effects, and animation production. It was a very big, wide umbrella she was given. It's not common that you have somebody who's both your president of physical production and post-production. That's a lot of responsibility. And it was that addition to her responsibility, maybe too much, that a lot of people started wondering, is she the heir apparent? Is she the one that's going to take over? Is she the one that Kevin Feige is grooming, getting her to run all sorts of aspects of the company? And maybe she was. But Kevin Feige was grooming to take over. Now, there's a big train of thought out there right now that I don't personally subscribe to, but it is a possibility. We guys remember about 6 months ago, there started to be a lot of rumblings and turmoil amongst the visual effects community saying, listen, look, you go all the way back to Life of Pi with the visual effects company Rhythm and Hues. If you guys have never heard of them, you should go look up. There's a documentary on them online. You should go look up. Fabulous, wonderful visual effects company that broke a lot of ground. They did Life of Pi. And their success at Life of Pi drove them out of business. And the company went bankrupt with the success. And that was the first time the world and the film fan community started to become aware of the fact that to make this magic, these visual effects, the system that's in place is very, very taxing on the companies that do them and the individuals who work on those companies. And it is not a problem that's gotten any better since the days of Life of Pi, which I think was, what was that, with 2013, I want to say? Maybe it was older than 2013.
2012.
2012. So 21 years ago, or 11 years ago, I mean. Stuff hasn't gotten better. And now, the biggest company in the world that needs visual effects, needs more visual effects than anybody else, is Marvel, with Netflix actually coming in a close second. And so there was a lot of grumbling. There is this bad system in place where basically here's how it works. And I'm oversimplifying it. I admit I am oversimplifying, but here's the basic premise of it. Let's say Taylor and Ray both own visual effects companies.
Like, yeah, you know which one's the better one.
and I am, let's say, Netflix, and I have a movie that needs to be done. I'm doing a brand new We're American Wolf in London.
Go ahead, Taylor.
I'm doing a reboot, and I'm going to have lots of visual effects, right? So here's how again, I'm oversimplifying it, but here's basically how it works. I send out the script with the breakdown notes of all this kind of stuff, and I send it to the two companies. And I say, well, here's what we need. Now, you guys, and in actuality, I'd be sending it out to like 20 companies. But I said, these are the visual effects needs that we have. You guys go through it. You figure out what we need. Now, you give me a bid. You tell me how much you'll do this movie for. Now, here's the problem. All of a sudden now, Ray, running his company, he can't just put together a bid and say, well, this is how much it's going to cost us. This will be a good profit margin for us. So we'll do it for this much, because he knows that if Taylor comes in $1 under what he bids, I'm going to give the job to Taylor. And Taylor knows if Ray comes in $1 under him. So what do? The people bidding on the project, they make it as absolutely low as they can, desperately low as they can. And here's the problem, though. Within these contracts, the visual effects companies have to do pickups. They have to do if there's changes and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, that's what drove Witherman, and again, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what drove Rhythm and Hughes out of business, is that the changes were made at the last second. People were working overtime. It cost Rhythm and Hughes paying all their staff while doing work they did not account for, and it drove them out of business because the system is broken. And Marvel, being the ones who provide most of the work and have the most stringent deadlines, some say too stringent, has caused a lot of stress and a lot of problems for a lot of visual effects companies. So there is a train of thought out there that maybe I'm not even going to say firing, because we don't even know if she was fired or she just decided to leave. We have no idea at this point. But that maybe Victoria Alonso was let go because of all the turmoil amongst the visual effects community. The reason I have a hard time believing that right now is, why would that happen now and not 7 months ago when it was all really a big issue? I don't know why she would still be around for 7 months. And now listen, as an executive, she was a taskmaster. She was responsible when all these movies and filmmakers were making all these movies and saying, we need these visual effects. It was her responsibility as the head of post-production to make sure what the filmmakers needed got it. And maybe she went about it the wrong way. I mean, we don't know. We have no idea. And by the way, we don't even know that she was let go. For all we know, she left it to become the new president of Lucasfilm.
Well, it's funny because like this morning on the news, they're interviewing. They're interviewing this older lady who was like 70 years old, and they said, "What's your biggest regret? You know, like what would you do?" She said, "I wouldn't have worked so hard." You know what I mean? And
I've heard a lot of stories like that.
One of could be what's going on with her. Maybe it's just it's time. Maybe
hey, listen, maybe part of her salary for 17 years was stock options every year, and she's looked at the price of Disney and Marvel stock and said, you know what, I can cash out now and I can have $20 million in the bank, and I can just, we don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can only do something for so long.
Yeah, the point is right now, we don't know why she left, but there is speculation about why. Again, she very well could have left to become the new president of Lucasfilm. We just don't know yet. I don't think that's likely, but I'm just saying. But again, the reason this is so interesting to me is, again, what we were talking about at the beginning, that this has been a company that has not had a lot of turnover. This is a company that has not had, especially at the top. And so it is really interesting to see this work out. And it's going to be very fascinating over the coming weeks, as I'm sure little bits of information will trickle out to figure out what was behind it. Is it something as simple as, you know what, I've done this long enough, and she just decided it's time for me to cash out? Or is it Big Papa Iger saying, you know what, you guys really mismanaged the way we handled and treated the visual effects companies. Somebody's got to be held accountable, and it's going to be her. That might be it. That might have nothing to do with it. We won't know for a while, but it's going to be interesting to find out. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Do you think that Victoria Alonso just decided to leave? Maybe she has a better job offer. Maybe she just decided, hey, 17 years is long enough. Do you think maybe it had something to do with the relationship with visual effects companies? If so, why wasn't she let go like 6 months ago instead of now? I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down, let's now go over and go to our Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. If you guys have a question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on the show, go ahead and call our hotline anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. You might hear your question being asked here, and we got a new one about an upcoming Joaquin Phoenix. We were just talking about him, film called Beau is Afraid. Check it out.
Hey, John, it's Dan from Minnesota. I'm curious your thoughts on Ari Aster's Beau is Afraid, which releases in about a month. In light of Everything Everywhere All at Once's Oscar glory, do you think this movie can be profitable? Or, considering Aster's previous work, will it be too dark and weird for people who even liked Everything Everywhere All at Once and struggle to break even? Thanks. Go Leafs, go Wild.
Thank you so much to anybody who says go Leafs. You have my affection. All right. This is really interesting. So for those of you who may or may have not seen, Joaquin Phoenix has a new movie coming out called Beau is Afraid. And of note, the director of that film is a filmmaker by the name of Ari Aster. And to know what he did, if you're thinking, why do I recognize that name? It's because he's done a couple of really good movies recently. Midsommar, which is not a film I totally connected with, but it's brilliantly made. It's just, and I know a lot of people, it's one of those films that you either really didn't like it or you just absolutely loved it. I was kind of in the middle. Like, I really appreciate how like creative and imaginative the damn thing is. And he did another movie that I absolutely loved called Hereditary, which was all kinds of fantastic. And now he's working with an Academy Award winning actor in Joaquin Phoenix and doing Beau is Afraid. How do I think this is going to do? Can this movie, like an Everything Everywhere All at Once, which became the highest grossing movie for A24 in the studio's history, can Beau's Afraid capture that same lightning in a bottle? I don't think it will. Now, granted, let me be clear here. This also looks like a movie that is fairly inexpensively made. I'll go out on a limb and guess that the biggest price tag on the line breakdown is probably Joaquin Phoenix's salary. And Joaquin Phoenix looks brilliant in it. But as a fan of Aster, and as a fan of A24, and as a fan of Joaquin Phoenix, and as a fan of movies that are a little bit off the normal track of thinking, other than Lamb, I just know. To this day, I don't know why Lamb ever got made. That movie was really weird. I got to tell you, while the only thing the trailer for me for Beau is Afraid did was make the movie look weird. But there's a difference between looking really creatively weird and just looks weird. And again, Ari Aster is not the one who makes the trailers. A marketing company does that. The trailer they put together for, like, I'm only speaking for myself. I want to know what you guys think. The trailer, quite frankly, didn't look all that appealing other than the names attached. Right? The director of Hereditary, that interests me. Joaquin Phoenix, that interests me. But I will admit, I don't think the trailer looked all that great. And if you're asking the question, how do I think the general movie-going audience will respond to this? Listen, right or wrong, fair or unfair, I'm looking at this and I don't know that a lot of people are going to rush out to see this. I think the hardcore cinephiles are going to eat this thing up. Mm-hmm. I mean, this looks like a movie that's really aimed at the, Jonathan Voicos of the world, the real hardcore cinephiles. But I'm just being honest. I don't see this thing making a lot of money. Now, if it's cheap enough, it might have been made cheap enough that if it makes $50, it could be break even. I mean, I don't know, but I know, like, Taylor, you saw the trailer for Beau is Afraid. How interested are you, and how much interest have you sensed from other people around you?
I haven't heard any of my friends talk about it, but I have been getting a lot of people writing to me about it, asking what I thought about the trailer. I think it looks good. I think I need to see one more trailer to be 100% sold on this
I agree.
movie.
We need to see another trailer. Yeah.
But I feel like it's a perfect storm between Joaquin Phoenix.
I mean, this is me whenever Taylor asks me a question.
Ari Aster. I just feel like A24, it's the perfect storm. All the ingredients are there. Need one more trailer to be sold. But I'm going to see it regardless. I'll see anything, as you well know.
Ray, you put together one of those candy Christmas calendars counting down to Beau's Afraid.
I will tell you, when this trailer came on at the theater, I paid attention, and I don't know why. It
catches your attention.
Yeah. It got my attention. I still don't know what it's about. I mean, can you really bet against A24 right now? I mean,
but look, here's the thing, though. Even with Everything Everywhere winning the Academy Award, being the highest grossing film that A24 has ever done, in the grand scheme of things, it still didn't make that much money compared to a lot of other, what we consider to be the standards for Hollywood films, right? So I don't know.
And I will tell you, the downside with A24 is a lot of their movies is not one that I prefer to go see in a theater.
Yeah,
It's
and I think a lot of average
yeah,
film fans feel the same way.
which kind of sucks for them. So
I mean, I don't know, Jonathan. Let me ask you: I haven't sensed a lot of people clamoring about this movie. Like, for instance, when Everything Everywhere All at Once's trailer came out, a lot of people buzzed about it. I haven't heard a lot of people buzz about this. And again, I'm not hating on the film because there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that I really, really like. I just don't think it's being marketed well. And I don't know if the average film fan is going to go see it. Are you sensing anything there?
This kind of reminds me, remember when Mother came out?
Yes.
It kind of felt that same way. Like, you're going into something strange. You don't, the trailer for Mother told you nothing about what Mother was about. And I feel like the movie Mother told me nothing about what the movie Mother was about.
Dude, I could not agree more. I hated that movie.
And it could be along those lines, but then you had people, like you were saying, that ate that up.
Yeah.
So this could be one of those cases. That's kind of the vibe I get from it.
All right, guys, the question is for you. What do you think? If you're interested and excited about Beau is Afraid, and listen, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about it. I talked about the names attached to it. But have you been sensing from your kind of more casual movie-going friends any excitement from them? Do you think a lot of people are going to buy tickets to this movie? I certainly hope they do, but I'm not sure that they will. How do you think it's going to shake out? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to take a minute here and thank a couple of the sponsors of today's episode of our show, our friends at Rocket Money and the Black Tux. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Rocket Money. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions. Think about that. If you think you're only subscribed to a handful of services, you might want to double check. With Rocket Money, you can quickly identify and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want and don't even use. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as the click of a button. My wife Ann and I moved out of Burbank 2 years ago, and one of the first things I discovered when I loaded up Rocket Money was that I was still paying for a gym membership I haven't even been to in Burbank in 2 years. So stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, the Black Tux. It's time we had the talk. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that ends in the 3-letter word. I'm talking about a tux. And when you need a tux, the best place to go to get one is the Black Tux. The Black Tux makes it super easy to get an on-trend, top-quality, guaranteed to fit tux without ever needing to leave your house. So here's how it works. Take the Black Tux fit quiz, pick the style you want to wear, and boom, your tux is delivered to your door 10 days before the day you need it. That's plenty of time to try it on and make sure it wears you well. And hey, if the fit's not quite right, say hello to the Black Tux Fit Guarantee. Order a better size within a day or two of receiving the less than great fitting one, and they'll send another one right away at no extra cost. Their expert fit specialist will help you find the perfect style tux or suit and make sure it fits just right. Listen, I've been dubious in the past about online sites or apps that say they can get your measurements, but the fit quiz with the Black Tux works great. And man, I wish I had had these guys for so many events I've attended over the years. So rent or buy, the Black Tux is the best place to go when you need a tuxedo for a wedding or a special night. And right now, when you go to thebblacktux.com/Campea and use the code Campea, you'll save $20 off your order. That's THEBLACKTUX.com/Campea, code Campea to save $20. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money and the Black Tux for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you go and check out and support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So if you go down to the description of the video, you'll find links and promo codes to all of today's sponsors. And thank you again to Rocket Money and the Black Tux. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on going here, shall we? Because we got this. You know, one of the topics of conversation that's been pretty hot the last little while has continued to be the Black Adam Project, a film that a lot of people, including me, would have put money on being a contender to be a billion-dollar film not all that long ago. Ended up kind of being a bit of a disappointment. It didn't even make $400 million at the box office, at least the last I checked. I don't think it hit $400 million at the box office. While I liked the film, I didn't love it. I certainly had issues with it. It wasn't as well received, I think, as they were kind of hoping it would be. And you had the biggest movie star in the world. My second favorite movie star in the world, only behind Ryan Reynolds, is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, I always talk about how winning cures everything, and it does. But when losing happens, a lot of fingers start to get pointed. It's a feast or famine business. It just is. When things are going well and things are great, everybody overlooks all the problems. But when something goes wrong, everybody has a finger to point. And unfortunately, a lot of fingers have been pointed at Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson himself. First of all, about maybe there were some stories going around about the way he handled the behind the scenes negotiations of the thing, how he tried to maybe, according to some reports, tried to muscle his will into existence at DC, that some say he even tried to make a play to take over DC and all that kind of stuff. And there was some criticisms there. However, in a new report coming out of the Wrap, they're saying that maybe the failure of Black Adam and the new Shazam film maybe squarely falls on Dwayne Johnson's massively impressive shoulders. That maybe he kind of torpedoed and sabotaged a couple of the plans that DC had and the way they wanted to handle Shazam and the way they wanted to handle Black Adam, and that maybe Dwayne Johnson himself was directly responsible for cutting them off at the knees. This comes to us from the folks at Screen Rant, referring to that article in the Wrap. They said this. Now, the Wrap put some of the blame for Shazam 2's failure at Dwayne Johnson's feet, as the Black Adam star reportedly vetoed ideas that would have seen Zachary Levi's Shazam cameo in the Black Adam post-credit scene, or Justice Society characters appearing in Shazam Fury of the Gods post-credit scene. Now, remember, we talked yesterday how the director of Shazam Fury of the Gods said that right up to 3 days before they started shooting, Justice Society was supposed to show up. And it was 3 days before they started shooting that they found out that had been torpedoed. Now, when we talked about that and when he quoted that, nobody said why it was torpedoed. According to this, Dwayne Johnson torpedoed it. Anyway, we keep reading on here. The Rock reportedly wanted the DC extended universe to revolve around him and Henry Cavill's Superman, and Shazam was not a part of his plan. Shazam 2 producer Peter Safran attempted to reuse the scrapped Black Adam idea, only for Dwayne Johnson to step in and prevent any Justice Society characters from appearing, resulting in Peacemaker characters being used instead. All right. Now, as a producer of Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson probably had negotiated rights that he could veto certain things like that about characters that were used in his movie and all that kind of stuff. Now, it should be said here that while this story is coming from one of the big outlets, being the Wrap, it should be noted that we still need to take it with a slight grain of salt. we haven't heard Dwayne Johnson's side of this. And I don't know, maybe Dwayne Johnson won't say anything. Maybe that's exactly the way it happened. Or maybe Dwayne Johnson will come out and say, whoa, 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 whoa. I did not do that. And I did not say that. So we'll talk about the story as it's presented to us, but just keep in mind there may be another side to this story that we'll have to take into consideration later. That being said, the question comes up, Black Adam, even for those people who do know who Black Adam was, and you could make a lot of arguments that not a lot of people knew who Black Adam was. It's a pretty unknown character amongst average filmgoers. He was still a secondary character to Shazam, who himself is kind of a secondary character. And it caught people as being very odd that you would do a Shazam movie, the first one, and do a Black Adam movie, and the two never met. The two are inseparable. Black Adam and Shazam. It's like yin and yang. It's like, I don't know, Superman and Lex Luthor. It's like Batman and Joker. I mean, that's the yin and the yang. It's Shazam and Black Adam. Now, look, I get it. We talked about this last year sometime. I kind of get it. Dwayne Johnson didn't want the Black Adam character to just be seen as a sub-character to Shazam. I respect that. I get that. But I got to imagine there probably would have been some creative ways to introduce Black Adam in Shazam, or introduce Black Adam in Shazam 2 and then have Black Adam come out after Shazam 2. I don't know. But look, the notion of, I'll say this, blaming Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for the failure of Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the Gods, even if this report is true and he's the one who single-handedly torpedoed the post-credit scene appearances, what are we talking about here? Does anybody really think, like, the Justice Society showing up in Shazam 2's post-credit scene, does anybody think that would have saved the movie?
No.
Does anybody think that, oh, you know what? Whirly Girl and Atom Smasher showed up in the post-credit scene of Shazam 2. Woo! Instead of $30 million, it made $230 million in opening weekend. It wouldn't have changed anything.
Those people didn't know what was in the post-credit scene when they saw it.
Exactly. Until, they probably would have put it in the trailers because
That's
they started
true.
putting Wonder Woman in the commercials for the things, for heaven's sakes. But, it's not, and then if Shazam had showed up at the end of Black Adam instead of, say, Henry Cavill Superman, does anybody think that would have changed Black Adam's fate from making $390 million to making $890 million?
No.
So look, do I believe the story that maybe Dwayne Johnson personally torpedoed these crossover cameos? It fits, so I kind of believe it until I hear from Dwayne otherwise. But the point is, even if true, would it have made that big of a difference? Would it have suddenly turned the fate of either of these movies around? And if you say no, then how can we say that Dwayne Johnson is responsible for the failure of Shazam? Or Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods? I kind of believe the story. I just don't see how that makes it his fault.
Right.
I don't know, Jonathan, you hear about, look, we hear a lot of stories about power plays in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. Like, does some of the responsibility and blame for this lie with Dwayne Johnson?
I think, again, it's like what you said. The story might be true, but then you can't place blame on a movie's failure because of that.
Of a post-credit scene.
The drama might have happened, but that didn't cause the box office to drop
Right.
in the film. What happened was a fracturing of their business dealings, but not the failing of Shazam 2. No.
I don't know, guys. Question is, what do you think about this? According to the Wrap, it was Dwayne Johnson who torpedoed those crossover ideas, but they seemed, unless we're missing something, like it was pretty small stuff that I don't think impacted the success or failure of either Black Adam or Shazam Fury of the Gods. So I don't know. What do you think? Is Dwayne Johnson responsible for all the failures, or is it really inconsequential? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this one, shall we? Because this one makes me kind of happy. The Star Wars shows, specifically talking about, the Book of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian series, they generally keep under wraps, except for going into season 1. the Star Wars Disney Plus shows have generally kept under wraps who the directors of the various episodes are. So they've gone in and produced entire seasons, and we've not known who the directors are. Maybe we've known one or two names. And then leading up to those shows coming out, we start to find out. Well, coming off their hot wins at the Academy Awards.
Hot wins.
Everything, everywhere, all at once directors, which a movie that just swept up the Oscars this year. I think they ultimately won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Directors, Best Motion Picture, Best Screenplay. I mean, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. I mean, it just, they dominated. And the directors, the Daniels, we started talking instantly after they won those Academy Awards. What's next for these guys? They've got to deal with Universal, but that doesn't preclude them from doing movies with other studios as well, depending on the nature of the deal. And what's the big next thing going to be? Well, according to the Hollywood Reporter, we now know what the next thing we're going to see with these guys in, and that is the upcoming new Star Wars series, Skeleton Crew. Now, for those of you guys who might forget what that is, Spider-Man No Way Home, Far From Home, and Homecoming director John Watts, who I think, wasn't he going to do Fantastic Four at some point? I think he was, yeah. But anyway, he jumped over and he decided he was going to do this new live-action Star Wars series called Skeleton Crew, and they got Jude Law to be the star of it, which to me is actually really quite exciting. So John Watts, who's been tearing it up, did a great job with his Spider-Man franchise. And working with a guy like Jude Law, love it. Well, apparently, according to these reports now, the Daniels, the Oscar-winning directors, the reigning Academy Award winner, best directors in the world, are going to be directing at least one episode of Skeleton Crew. It says this: newly minted Oscar winners Daniels have set a course for the Star Wars galaxy. The filmmakers behind Everything Everywhere All at Once are working on the Disney Plus series Skeleton Crew, sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. The series began filming over the summer and wrapped in recent months. But as with all things Star Wars, the show has been shrouded in secrecy, with the directors unknown. The complete list of Helmers of The Mandalorian Season 3, for example, were not even revealed until the trailer dropped 2 months ahead of the premiere. So, according to the Hollywood Reporter, at least one episode of Skeleton Crew. And listen, I know there's not a lot of people who are what you would say creaming their pants for Skeleton Crew. I get it.
That when you say you would say.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, the one-line elevator pitch of it, of a bunch of kids in the Star Wars galaxy trying to find their way home. I mean, okay, that doesn't elicit a lot of hype, granted. I am not excited for Skeleton Crew based on the elevator pitch. I'm excited because it's John Watts. I'm excited because I love Jude Law. And I'm excited now because they've been able to attract directors such as the Academy Award-winning Daniels. Now, I can already hear some people who are saying to me, well, John, Marvel went out and got the reigning, defending Oscar Best Director of the Year to go and do Eternals. Well, yeah, but I get it. It's a little bit of a hot take. F it. I like Eternals. I think Eternals is quite good, and I actually like it more every time I watch it. So for me, even though the box office didn't work out so good, that has nothing to do with the director. I thought they made a good movie. So yes, I am excited that Jude Law is going to be acting in at least one episode, maybe a couple, being directed by the Daniels. Listen, the Daniels have shown, because not only are they Academy Award winning directors, by the way, they're Academy Award winning writers. They won the Academy Award for writing as well. And they wrote that damn thing. What they bring to the table is this really spontaneous way of thinking and this out of the box style of thinking, and the way they shoot stuff, it's just really kinetic. And I think that style in a Star Wars show, which admittedly, we don't know much about the Star Wars show. I fully admit that. But I think this is great news. Like, I am personally really, really stoked to watch this. And I think the addition of the Daniels is absolutely fantastic. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they can do with this material, because Star Wars ain't for everybody. Star Wars ain't for everybody. But in the right hands, take, for example, Bryce Dallas Howard. Look what happened when Bryce Dallas Howard. I contend a couple of the best episodes of Star Wars television outside of Andor, which is the greatest thing Star Wars has ever put on television, maybe the greatest thing Star Wars has done since the original trilogy. But outside of that, Bryce Dallas Howard stepped in and it was just there, man. She knows that world. She knows how to really, and not just knows the world, she knew how to bring the best out of it. And the episodes that she's directed on Disney Plus for Star Wars so far have been some of the best that they've done. I am counting on the same to be true of the Daniels. Nay, blindly optimistic. Well, it's not so blind. Like, they got Oscars in their hands, so it's not all that blind. But I think this is absolutely terrific, and I cannot wait. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? The Academy Award-winning Best Directors, the Daniels, are going to be directing, at minimum, might be 2, might be 3, 1 episode of the upcoming Jude Law, John Watts series, Skeleton Crew for Star Wars Universe. Is that enough to get you kind of at least interested in it? I haven't heard a lot of people have been hyped about this show. Will this change it? Maybe yes, maybe no. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our final and main topic here today, shall we? On a little bit less of an optimistic note when it comes to Star Wars. Okay. According to reports, we all have known for a while that Damon Lindelof, whose programs and projects have won multiple awards, multiple Emmys, whether you're talking about things like Lost or you're talking about things like Watchmen, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. It wasn't big on the finale per se. I thought they could end a little bit differently, but I mean, that show won a bunch of awards. There are a lot of people I know that just think The Leftovers is like one of the greatest things to be on TV in a long time. The Leftovers wasn't really my cup of tea per se, but I know a lot of people that absolutely stunningly loved it. He's got some hits and misses too, but he's made some really, really good stuff. And everybody knew, the reports were going around, the stories were confirmed that he was working in a writer's room. They even put together a full writer's room for him over at Lucasfilm. Start developing the story, all that kind of stuff. And he's working on this film with, now I always mispronounce her name, so forgive me, you know me, I'm the worst with names. Shireen Obaid Chinoy, who is a director of Ms. Marvel, and you know how much I love Ms. Marvel. So he was working on the screenplay and the script for an upcoming Star Wars project that she was going to direct. Well, guess what? According to reports now, he's gone.
I'm shocked.
Shocked, I say.
You're out.
I am both agog and aghast that, surprise, surprise, Kel Supri, another high-profile, award-winning storyteller who is brought in and attached to do a Star Wars project, is now gone.
The revolving door, baby.
We have never heard this song. This is so unlike things.
My guess is creative differences.
It's going to be written off to creative differences. Yeah. That's for sure. Now, look, let me preface this the way I always preface it. And I know if you've heard me say this, you're probably bored to tears of hearing me say it, but it is important that I say this. I am not some blindfold-laden Kathy Kennedy hater. Like, you know the ones. There are people out there that Kathy Kennedy could literally dive into a burning ocean to save a baby seal, and there are people who come up with reasons why it was stupid for her to do that. I mean, and I am not one of those people. You know, full transparency. When George Lucas picked her, when George Lucas personally hand-selected Kathy Kennedy to be the new head of Lucasfilm, I thought, and continue to this day on paper, thought it was a great choice. Steven Spielberg calls her the greatest producer in the history of Hollywood. Do you think Steven Spielberg knows anything about movies? Maybe he knows a little bit. Yeah, maybe. So I was all for it on paper. I think, and I agree with Steven Spielberg, I think she is one of the most gifted, talented, results-oriented producers of all time. I think she's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Were there a Hollywood Hall of Fame, I think the day she retires, 5 days later, they walk her into the Hall of Fame and put her bronze statue up there. Hollywood should have a Hall of Fame, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there. And if there was one, she should be in it. But just because you're good, nay, great, at something, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be good or great at other things. I was all for Kathy Kennedy becoming the president of Lucasfilm. I think it was a worthwhile experiment to try. And to be fair, under her leadership, there have been a couple of big wins for Star Wars. Rogue One was a big win. The Force Awakens was a big win. By the way, Force Awakens holds a box office record that I don't think will ever be beat. It is the highest grossing domestic box office film of all time. More than Avengers Endgame, more than either Avatar film, Star Wars, The Force Awakens is, and I think will always be, the number one domestic box office film of all time. That was under her watch. Mandalorian was under her watch. It was her idea to pick out Jon Favreau's pitch and then to match Jon Favreau up with Dave Filoni and to make The Mandalorian happen. That was under her watch. She did that. And I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and she deserves some props for that. With all the negativity that people hurl at her, you got to be willing to hand out the props, and she deserves some props. That said, it wasn't too terribly long after Kathy Kennedy took over Lucasfilm that it started to become apparent that this wasn't, to put it gently, the right fit. Between the inexplicable rotating door, as Ray put it, of all the talent that would come and go, when I would argue that the number one job of the president of Lucasfilm is to make sure you have selected the right writers and the right directors, that you guys are on the same page with your vision, and then let them go loose. Time after time after time after time after time after time, we found that, oh, this person's now gone. Now that person's gone. Now these writers are gone. That director's left. They're changing this up now. Now that's all gone. And the number one job and responsibility of the president of that studio is to make sure before you pull the trigger, to make sure you are 100% on the same page in terms of vision, that they clearly understand your vision, you clearly understand theirs, and then away you go. And listen, of course, in the 15 years that Kevin Feige's been running Marvel, there have been a couple of turnover things for sure, but about one for every 10 that we've had at Lucasfilm. And then, as the sequel trilogy progressed, I love The Force Awakens. I have no apologies for that. It's awesome. I love it. Schnepp and I used to go like every afternoon across the street to the AMC Burbank 16 so we could watch it again and watch it again. I love it. And I don't care who doesn't like that. I do. I really love that movie. But then The Last Jedi came out. And while I liked The Last Jedi, there's certain things about it that I loved and certain things about it that I really had problems with, it started to become apparent. Do they even have a plan? We started wondering, it's like, wait a minute, it seemed like the first movie was kind of going one way. Now this, it doesn't really feel like they're connected. Did they have a plan? And then, oh my God, then The Rise of Skywalker came out.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was like, bend over, defecate in your hand, and throw it in the fan. Because that was The Rise of Skywalker. It's a subjective opinion. Everybody has different. Some people like The Rise of Skywalker, and that's awesome if you do. I'm talking about my perception of the film, okay? But what became abundantly clear after The Rise of Skywalker, a film which, by the way, still made $1 billion. But after The Rise of Skywalker, what became abundantly clear is there was no fucking plan. It was all winging it. Every step of the way was just winging it and making it up as they went. And maybe you can do that for a little bit, but you keep doing that and it catches up with you. Mm-hmm. And it comes in the name of The Rise of Skywalker. And it became apparent. So we have a sequel franchise that all made over $1 billion, but clearly had no plan and no direction. We have a constant rotating door of creatives that come on board, and Kathy Kennedy can't figure out if she's on the same page with them or not. And yeah, let's do that. And 5 minutes later, you know what? I stubbed my toe. I don't think I want to do that project anymore. And they change it out. And now the latest one with Damon Lindelof. Now, whether you like David Lindelof or you don't is completely freaking irrelevant. The point is, they had another awards-laden creator that was on board, gave them their own writer's room, all that kind of stuff, and now all of a sudden they're gone. And I'm sure for all of them, it's different reasoning. Maybe there was one reason for this one and another reason for a different one and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to take reasoning out of the equation, but there is a common denominator here. Somebody comes in to work with Kathleen Kennedy, and shortly thereafter, they're gone. With Kevin Feige, for years, we were told that Kevin Feige is going to develop a Star Wars film. Something that, again, proverbially, maybe literally, made me cream my pants. I was so excited about that. Only to hear nothing and nothing and nothing. And eventually we found out a little while ago, no, that project's not going to happen. Patty Jenkins, hey, listen, I get it. A lot of people didn't like Wonder Woman 84. I get that. But guess what? She directed Charlize Theron to winning her only Academy Award. That's the main job of a director, is to get the best performance that they can out of their actors. And she directed Charlize Theron to an Academy Award win. That movie was fantastic. And then she did Wonder Woman, which, by the way, don't let the recency bias of Wonder Woman 84 fool you. That Wonder Woman movie was the first bona fide success for the DCU. That was a hit with the audience, hit with the critics, hit with the box office. And she did that. And they made this big deal, this picture right here. They made this big frippin' deal that she's going to, in honoring of her father, she was going to make a dogfight fighter pilot movie in the Star Wars universe called Star Wars Rogue Squadron. She went out on this tarmac. They had a life-size X-Wing fighter there, all that kind of stuff. And eventually just went away. For years, they've talked about Taika Waititi, Academy Award winner Taika Waititi. And again, I don't give two flippin' shits what you think about Thor Love and Thunder. This is the guy who did Jojo Rabbit. This is the guy who did Wildebeest. This is the guy who did What We Do in the Shadows. This is the guy who did Thor Ragnarok. This is an Academy Award winning filmmaker. And I get it. There were problems with Thor Love and Thunder. Okay, there were problems with that one. He went too much in one direction. I agree. I concur. It doesn't undo all the brilliant stuff that he had done. And we've been told for years, we're probably doing his next. Remember, Kathleen Kennedy said that last year at one of the conventions. Next up is our Taika Waititi film. Well, where is it?
Didn't he did the Mandalorian, an episode of Mandalorian, right? Was I?
Yep,
okay.
he did. He did an episode of Mandalorian. Did a great job on Mandalorian. His episode of Mandalorian was fantastic, by the way. But where is it? Now, maybe it'll still happen. We haven't heard any official word that Taika's thing is canceled, but at this point, do I believe Taika's project is going to work? Well, I don't think so now. And look, everybody knows it's the worst kept secret in Hollywood that Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out. We all know that. But the question I have today, and I don't blame Kathleen Kennedy for this. My question today is this. When you look at all these, let's call them stumbles, the rotating door of talent. By the way, if you look at the main thumbnail of the show today, that's not even half. That's not even half. Those are the just most recent ones that have lined up and got knocked down. Right? That's not even half of it. That's not even a third of it. As a matter of
their
fact.
own group meetings now.
That's true. They got like some kind of AA meeting, like Star Wars Anonymous now. Actually, before the show started, Taylor was going, well, should we put this person on the list? No, that was a while ago. What about this person and this person? And Taylor just kept going down this huge list of all these
The elite.
people, lined
The
up
elite group of
rejects.
Star Wars.
And then they all got knocked down. While we all get and we all understand that probably within, you say 3, maybe give it 6 months at most, probably 6 months at most after Indiana Jones 5 comes out, we are going to get the official word that Kathleen Kennedy is departing to move on to set up a new production single, which she will probably exceed at very well because she's a world-class producer. But the head of a studio, this is an experiment that didn't work. An experiment that I was all for. It was worth trying. I agreed with George Lucas's pick. But there's lots of decisions we make in life that we base on good information, and we make a decision and it doesn't work out. So what do? We change, or we change direction. I am left here today wondering, as somebody who is a big fan of Kathleen Kennedy as a producer, I think she still has great movies to produce as a producer, not as a studio head, in her future moving forward. And I believe she's a Hall of Famer. I am not some blindfolded, blind Kathleen Kennedy hater. But I got to ask the question, guys, how is she still there? How is she still there?
They're making room for the newest.
I mean, that's one of the things, right? Like, one of the theories is that they're kind of clearing house to make room for the next person to come over. But why is she still there today? Like, if almost any other studio had this many gaffes, and granted, again, there have been some big wins. I don't want to sweep that under the rug. There have been some big wins. But despite those big wins, if almost any other studio president or studio executive at almost any other studio or firm or company or outlet had made this many, let's say, gaffes, they would have probably had their bosses come and say, you know what? This isn't a good fit. This isn't the right thing for you. You should move on and do something that you're more skilled at, and we need to get somebody else in. I just don't understand why she's still there.
You know what? Despite the money they offer, despite the prestige of the position, how many people want to take on this responsibility?
Dude, that's the next big thing.
Like, how many times have people come in and be like, they don't want to hear that. They don't want any of that smoke that comes with failures.
Nope. And listen, I'll tell you what, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who works in one of the studios. And like, we were going through the possibility. We were playing, who could be the next president. And obviously one of the names that comes up is Jon Favreau, right? That's a name that comes up now and again. And the person said to me, why on earth would Jon Favreau want that job? I mean, we've already seen a filmmaker like Christopher McQuarrie, who works with Tom Cruise. He's got his new Mission Impossible movies coming to Tom Cruise. Christopher McQuarrie came out and said, make a Star Wars movie? No, thank you. I've seen the smoke that comes with it. I don't want anything to do with that. And so a part of it is, I don't understand why Kathleen Kennedy is still there. The other part of it is going to be, it's going to be a lot more challenging today than it would have been 3-4 years ago to get somebody else that you'd really want in the role to come in and take it. It's a messy situation, guys. I think it's fair to say it is a messy, messy situation. And now look, Star Wars Celebration is coming up, right? And I do believe we're going to get motion picture, not Disney Plus shows, motion pictures, at least one announcement at D23. I really do. I think for the first time in 5 years, we're going to get an actual announcement about an actual Star Wars movie at an actual Star Wars event of Star Wars Celebration. They're going to announce it. But here's the thing. When they get on that stage and they announce whatever that movie's going to be, how many people are actually going to, in the depths of their souls, believe that that thing's actually going to come to fruition? I mean, maybe it will. I hope it will. But come on. You can be the most diehard Star Wars fan right now. And when they make that announcement, and I do believe an announcement's coming, when they make that announcement, if you look in the mirror and stare into your own depth of black eyes, into your own soul, and ask yourself, do I really believe this is going to happen? There's got to, if you're being honest with yourself, there's at least a part of you that wonders, because that's the state that Lucasfilm is in right now. I don't know. Am I overlooking anything? And again, I don't like to be, I hate being this negative. I am pro Kathleen Kennedy. It's just that this wasn't the right job for her. Like, Ray, I love you, man. I really do. But if some hospital hired you to be the next lung surgeon, I might say, hey, Ray, I think you're great, but maybe this isn't the right job for you. Maybe
I can't take care of my own lungs.
Maybe you should,
What kind of hospital is that?
Yeah, that's exactly. You would ask, what kind of hospital is that? What kind of operation is Lucasfilm right now?
As long as they don't use Chat GPT to write the next movie.
That's probably what they're doing right now.
Write the next movie, then
It might work.
It might work.
I mean, it can't go any worse than it's been right now. Anyway.
And please, Star Wars, I beg you, no NFT announcements during Celebration.
Oh,
please
come on.
do not do that.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. It's just some people are still holding on to that.
Are there still people dumb enough to buy
holding
NFTs?
on to that?
Anyway, guys, question is for you. Sorry about the little rampage here. What do you think about this? Yet another one. Regardless of what you think of Damon Lindelof, he is an award-winning creator. He is. And whether you like him or hate him, it's like another one bites the dust. There's another one stepped up, another one's gone. And another one's gone, and another one bites the dust. Hey, gonna get you too. What do you guys think about this? Am I on crazy pills? Maybe yes, maybe no. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. with that down, we're going to take a second here before we move on to take your questions. You guys, of course, have been using our tip link to send in questions at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And we're going to get over and start answering those questions here in just a second. But before we do, we're going to thank a couple more sponsors of today's show, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile, and the good folks at Fume. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Be smart. Don't start. Kick the habit. Put it out before it puts you out. All phrases we've heard 100 times, yet we still continue to have bad habits. And I know all of you guys completely relate with me when I say kicking bad habits feel like it's impossible. Well, thankfully, our sponsor Fume is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. And understand, Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. Instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors. And Fume's new version 2 model is snappy and tactile. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. It's Fume's goal to make switching easy and even enjoyable. They have thousands of 5-star reviews from people just like you who've successfully switched when other solutions simply don't work. So head to tryfume.com and use the code Campea to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and the new version 2 Fume to help kickstart your positive habits. That's tryfum.com and use the code Campea to save an additional 10% off on your order today. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still paying insane amounts of money every month for your phone bill? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I made the switch over to Mint Mobile a while ago. The process couldn't have been easier, and I can't believe that I am spending less than a third of what I was spending on one of the other major carriers before. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in minutes with eSIM. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Fume and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, listen, you probably noticed we did inadvertently skip over the Shazam director story. We are running tight on time, so we're going to pick that up on tomorrow. We had a lot of topics today, so we're going to pick up on that one tomorrow. But for now, let's get over to your questions you guys have been sending in. So, Jonathan, what do we got up here?
All right. First up, we've got Dennis, who writes, thanks for all the great shows you and the whole team have already done this year. I love tuning in every day. Greetings from Germany.
Achtung. Thank you so much, man. And thank you. By the way, tipped in like $25. Thank you so much for supporting us at that level, man. Appreciate that. And thank you for so much for being here and letting us make these shows for you. It's awesome to be part of the community. So thank you for that.
He's from Germany, right?
Yes.
I have a little gripe.
Uh-oh. With Germany?
The Germans.
They have no. This is a little off, but I've been eyeing the small remote control car that drifts, that it's only in Germany, and every day I email the customer, when will you ship to the US? Come on, man, let's get your shipping down here already. I want it.
The underlying message here from Ray is, come on, Germans.
Yeah.
Get your shit together.
Give me my car.
Give me my small car.
Give me my small remote car. All right, what's next?
All right. Anonymous tips here. Hey, John, over under 40% that will be blood splatters and dead bodies in Tarantino's next film. Well, I mean, it's just about a film critic, unless he puts a twist in it. Maybe whenever the critic writes a review about a film, the director of the film dies.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, apparently the alleged final movie of Quentin Tarantino, it won't be his final one. He'll do another one someday. He'll get that creative itch, but it's going to be something called The Movie Critic, which is based on a real life character in the 1970s that a film critic that Quentin Tarantino absolutely really reveres and respects a lot and wants to do a movie on that. Now, of course, Quentin Tarantino has done movies in the past based on historical events, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Glorious Bastards, things like that. However, he takes a lot of liberties with history. Could he do the same thing? Like maybe she sees a movie that maybe the film critic in the movie, and I can't remember the actual film critic's name that's based on.
I want to say it was like Paula or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. If she gets so sick and tired of seeing bad movies that she finally watches one bad movie too many, she goes and hunts down the director and the actors and brutally kills them all. I don't know, but it sounds like something Quentin Tarantino would do. Totally sounds like something he would do. All right, what's next?
All right, let me scroll down here a little bit. Tron writes, Puss in Boots 2 opening was $12 million and it's made over $470 million worldwide. Not saying that's going to happen with Shazam, but hopefully it has good legs.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, a movie come out. Taylor, can you look up the opening weekend for Greatest Showman, the Hugh Jackman film? Every once in a while, a movie will come out that opens very modestly, and then for whatever reason, it just gets legs and legs and legs, and it just goes, and it ends up with a bunch. Because what did The Greatest Showman open with? It wasn't much, I don't think.
See.
Also, do you remember My Big Fat Greek Wedding did that? It just...
Oh, yes. Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, and somebody in the live chat can correct me if I'm wrong, I think My Big Fat Greek Wedding actually set the record for most weeks in the top 10 without ever being number one. I believe I know that's a really weird record, but by the way, My Big Fat Greek Wedding is fantastic. Can you not find the box office?
No, I did. It's because there was the original release and then there was also a 2020 re-release. So it was showing me the 2020 re-release. But
Oh, okay. So what was the original opening weekend?
Yeah, 8.8 million.
8.8 million, and it ended up with how much?
434 million.
Opened with 8, ended up with more than Black Adam. So, I mean, that does happen. Unfortunately, it's just rare that it happens like that. But hey, fingers crossed. Because again, I think Shazam is quite good. I think they made a good movie that I had a lot of fun with. But that's just me. All right, what's next?
All right, Tron is back again. What are the chances that Margot Robbie is still Harley Quinn in the DCU? Gunn loves her and HQ, and she's connected to Waller and Peacemaker, which we know are continuing.
I would honestly give it 40%. I mean, I want to say lower, but everything you just said is right. You know, we know the Peacemaker crew is probably sticking around. She is connected to the Suicide Squad, thus the Peacemaker crew. He does love working with her. She loves playing the character. So while I'm not going to say it's an even 50%, I'll go 40.
If Jason Momoa can take on another character, for sure, Robbie might take on another
She
character.
could.
I mean,
But I know she loves playing Harley Quinn.
Yeah, but there's so many characters in DC that she could play.
That's
that
true.
Would be fantastic.
Yep. I mean, it would be interesting to see. All right, what's next?
Okay, Patrick writes, do you prefer practical effects rather than CGI? Seems for the most part, CGI has gotten a little lazy and as Hollywood depends on it too much.
Okay. Can everybody do me a favor? Never refer to CGI as lazy. CGI is an incredibly intricate, complicated, complex, hundreds of people involved in a single shot sort of thing. There is nothing lazy about doing CGI. It is often the more expensive way to do things. It's often the more difficult way to do things. Now, in the age-old question about what's better, well, there is no answer to that because there are situations where the clear right option is CGI. There are also times when the clear right option is practical.
And that's this time right now, right, John? John Wick?
John Wick, practical as much as you
That has
can.
to be practical.
But I'll
it's
tell
a
you what,
mix.
there's probably more
Yeah.
CGI in John Wick than we will even realize.
No.
Like I think there's gonna be like stuff
Keanu
in it.
does everything.
I mean, that's just the thing. Like CGI today is so good. People watch stuff. It's like, wow, that was great. No visual effects. I mean, it's like, oh my God, it was like all visual effects. It reminds me of when The Last of Us, when the finale happened and there was the scene with the giraffe. I saw a bunch of people going, that CGI looks so terrible. Guys, it was a real giraffe. It was a real giraffe. But that's how good CGI has become, right? It's almost indistinguishable. So the answer is, it depends. Listen, it all falls under the same umbrella of visual effects. And a different tool will be called upon and will be needed at different times. And quite often, the right thing to do is a CGI. Listen, I don't want some actor in a big green rubber bodysuit walking on stilts and going, "Rah, Hulk smash! Rah!"
Why not?
Nobody wants that. That has to be CGI. Then again, like with like Baby Grogu, with Baby Yoda, sometimes they do CGI when they need to, because there's certain things you just can't do with the puppet. And then there's times when absolutely the puppet works best because it's tactile. So the answer to what's better, practical effects or visual effects, the answer is there is no answer. It depends on what the actual shot calls for. All right, what's next?
Okay, next up we've got Aaron. Hey, John, what's your take on the whole Jenna Ortega kerfuffle last week? Personally, I think it was not a nothing burger story. Having listened to the podcast in question, she didn't say anything out of line or ill-willed. Response by some seemed overblown.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Is that where she changed the script?
Is that what thing where she said she changed the script?
And I feel like it was taken out of context. I don't feel like she meant she had one over on the...
Never would any production allow that to happen. Yeah. If that's what we're talking, if that's the controversy, no production or director or whatever allows an actor just to often rewrite a story. It doesn't happen unless your name is Leonardo DiCaprio or something like that. But yeah, I think it was probably taken out of context. Again, I don't know. I don't know Jenna Ortega personally, so I have no idea. But my guess is that I think it was probably much ado about nothing. All right, what's next?
Okay, Razor ATX writes, your D&D reaction and the reviews have me excited. They use the Forgotten Realms setting for the movie, which has a huge library of source material. Could you see more movies in that world that aren't a direct sequel to this happening?
Here's the thing. I don't know. The one nice thing about a Dungeons and Dragons world is that you don't have to draw on the source material. Like, you can go to the source material and take elements from it, but you don't have to take like any particular story from existing source material or lore and directly translate that into the screen. You can just create your own kind of story and then add in elements. Like, I'm getting a big kick out of sitting there and watching them talk about, maybe we can go down to Baldur's Gate. I'm going, I feel like I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio in that meme. Yeah. I know that reference, right? But so, yeah, I think, listen, there's so much stuff in Dungeons and Dragons that you can borrow and plop into any story you want. That's the beautiful thing about the setting of Dungeons and Dragons. You can take any kind of story, put it into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, accent it with stuff from the lore, and you can come up with something that's really fun and great. And guys, I'll tell you what, look, it's not going to win any Academy Awards, but this Dungeons and Dragons movie is a hell of a lot of fun. And I think you're going to enjoy it.
I have a cool story about Dungeons and Dragons. So the screening I went to had a Q&A after with the directors. And they said one of the things they did to break the ice was they did a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. They played it with the cast and crew. And someone asked, did anything from that game make it into the movie? And without spoiling anything, there's a scene where there's a bridge being held up by some chains, and they said that came from the game that they played, and it made it into the script.
Somebody rolled a 1. Fun. Somebody rolled a crit 1. By the way, the directors of the film are the same guys who did Game Night, which is one of the best pure comedies in the last 10 years.
Does this movie release this Friday?
No, it's March. I believe March 31st is when it comes out. It's John Wick this week.
I'm very curious to hear what actual diehard D&D players think of this movie.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think I told the story. Pardon me. I told the story yesterday. Our buddy Kyle Newman, who of course plays in Joe Manganiello's Hollywood Dungeons and Dragons game. He wrote 2 books on Dungeons and Dragons. He's the director of the movie Fanboys. I was texting back and forth with him, and before I went to go and see it with you, and Kyle had seen it already, and I just asked Kyle, so did you like it? And Kyle's like, dude, it's awesome.
Okay, good.
So I have a feeling if he liked it, I think a lot of the hardcore guys will like it. All right, what's next?
All right, from Arun Baburaj. I was not able to watch the show live for a good couple of months as I moved to London from India.
Wow, that's a big move.
Did you know that everyone needs to pay a TV license fee to watch live programs over here, including YouTube, live shows? Crazy.
What?
TV
is that true?
Fee.
Wait, when you say over here, I'm going to assume you mean India. London, because you're now in London and not India. I have never heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a real thing? Do you have to pay like a watching a screen tax?
And who is this guy? Is it just some guy in a suit that goes around house to house?
Say, pay your tax. Are you watching? I think you're watching YouTube back there. No, I totally not. No, I'm sure I heard. What's it?
Basement.
I heard Philip DeFranco in the background. Pay me your tax. How does that work? I have never heard of that. That is crazy. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that, man. I'm going to look into that.
Also, you know what's crazy about the UK or just in that area in general? A lot of the fights that we pay like $80 here for
pay-per-view?
it's just free there. Like Sky Sports, they'll show all the boxing matches that are pay-per-views here.
Damn it, Germany. All right.
Damn it, Germany.
All right, what's next?
All right, Casinema writes, I found out about the early D&D screenings because of this show, so thank you for that. I took my dad to see it for his birthday.
Nice.
I've never played D&D, but he used to, and we both loved it. The zombie questioning scene killed me, no pun intended.
I'll tell you what, one of the really cool things, I mentioned this the other day, when we did our out of the theater reaction to Dungeons and Dragons, there were a lot of comments. And as I went through them, how many other people went to go see that special advanced Amazon Prime screening? There are a lot of them. How many people said, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons and I loved this movie? Because I was really curious to see if people who had never played the game, have no background in the game, if they would like it. And apparently they loved it. So
And the demographic in that theater was the most impressive, most diverse
very
I've
wide.
ever seen. From like, it looked like people who couldn't even walk, like 80-year-olds
Yeah.
in there, to like kids, people with the kids. We heard like the kids all excited with the D&D hats. So hopefully it turns out that when this movie does release, it gets the
I saw a great shirt because, like any game, the rules of Dungeons and Dragons change over the years. I saw a guy wearing a shirt, and I can't remember the exact wording of it. It says, "I played D&D when you had to roll for dexterity," and like going back to the old. It's like
don't get it, but that's funny.
only the OG D&D players will understand that reference. All right, what's next?
All right, Garden Variety Vagabond writes, Hey, John, the Hot Mic podcast stated that Kit Harington's role in the upcoming Blade movie has either been drastically cut or removed to get the current script down to only 87 pages. Is this the end of The Black Knight, and what does it indicate for Blade?
I don't really know if it would mean anything for the Black Knight. I mean, I haven't listened to I know the podcast you're talking about. I haven't listened to it myself. But, I mean, it very well just could be, you know what, the movie's called Blade. Let's just focus more on Blade and get this down. But even if they did that, I don't think that would necessarily reduce any of their future plans, because they clearly do have plans with Kit Harington. And they like that character a lot. I loved him in Eternals. And I think they'll have plans. And if they reduce him out of Blade, to me, I would just interpret that as they just want to get it down to its essentials. 87 pages sounds short, though. Because the rule of thumb is a page in a script is equivalent to 1 minute of screen time. It's not an exact science. That's just a general thing. But 87 pages sounds pretty tight.
sounds perfect to me.
It sounds good to Ray. All right, what's next?
Anonymous writes, the CW's live-action Powerpuff series from Diablo Cody should, instead, be an adult animated sequel series in the vein of Invincible on HBO Max.
I'll tell you what. There is almost nothing in this world that can get me to watch a Powerpuff Girls thing. That idea would do it.
Me too.
No, and I'm not even kidding. I think that's a great idea.
That sounds great, actually.
In the vein of an Invincibles and stuff like that, or in the vein of Invincibles or The Boys or stuff like that, and you do a Powerpuff Girls now, all these years later, I'd be down for it. Sign me up. All right, what's next?
Guy D. Stringham writes, a public domain R-rated slasher horror movie based on the original TMNT comic book would be kind of awesome to see someday.
It would not be kind of awesome. It would be full-blown awesome. I have been the lone voice crying out in the wilderness that we have not seen the real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Sorry to all you cowabunga skateboarding pizza dudes. The real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were the ones in the original black and white comic books. And that was awesome. Those original, and I would kill to see
Me too.
an R-rated, original, true Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I think it would be incredible. I would be all about it.
Two good ideas in a row.
There you go. I love it. Okay, what's next?
All right, Guy writes back, which do you like better, Harper Lee's original novel To Kill a Mockingbird or the iconic 1962 classic film with Gregory Peck? I love them both.
Okay, so when I was in school, I had an elective where I had to either choose to read To Kill a Mockingbird or Fahrenheit 451. And I chose to read Fahrenheit 451 because I thought the cover was cooler. And didn't Michael B. Jordan do a movie of Fahrenheit?
yeah.
4? Yeah, that's right.
He was a fireman.
Right. I mean, obviously, To Kill a Mockingbird is one of the great all-time films. And Fitch, what's the character's first name?
Atticus.
Atticus is I think the American AFI, the American Film Institute, ranked him as the greatest hero in a movie ever. If you haven't watched To Kill a Mockingbird, you really must. So, but I never read the book because when I was in grade school, I chose to read Fahrenheit 451 instead. All right,
Still a
what's
good
next?
book to read, Fahrenheit. All right, so Garden Variety Vagabond writes, just caught an amazing Mayor of Kingstown finale. Someone close to Renner shared that they may reunite to focus on greater priorities. I'd miss him more on this than MCU. It gives him so much more to do than fake CGI archery. He makes for one mean bastard.
I'll tell you, Mayor of Kingstown is yet another Taylor Sheridan show. The same guy who does Yellowstone, the same guy who does
Tulsa King.
Tulsa King, the same guy who does 1923. Taylor Sheridan, he's amazing. I freaking love Mayor of Kingstown. Not to be confused with the Mayor of Easttown. Mayor of Kingstown with Jeremy Renner is a fantastic show. I am only 5 episodes in to this season, so I have not finished. I understand the finale just happened the other night. Listen, Jeremy Renner, did he get an Academy Award nomination for Hurt Locker?
I can check.
I thought he got one for either Hurt Locker or The Town. I can't remember. At any rate, I think Jeremy Renner in The Mayor of Kingstown is his greatest performance. I think it's his best role. I think it's his greatest performance. I love him as Hawkeye, don't get me wrong, but my God, he's good in Mayor of Kingstown. I love
Chat
that
saying
show.
both.
And a lot of it, I think, is shot near my hometown of Hamilton. It's shot in a real city in Ontario called Kingston.
So,
Not
yeah,
Kingstown, it's called Kingston, Ontario, which has some real penitentiaries in it. Were you able to find anything on that, Taylor?
Yeah, so in 2010, he was nominated for Best Actor for The Hurt Locker, and in 2011 for The Town for Best Supporting Actor.
Okay, so I knew it was one of them, but it was actually both of them he got nominated for. And I still think Mayor of Kingstown is his best performance. If you guys haven't watched the show, absolutely must. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher writes, after Picard episode 305, I need a Titan series starring Todd Stashwick and Jerry Ryan, created by Terry Matalas. I also really want to see a book series about a Vulcan crime syndicate.
I don't actually know what day of the week Picard comes out. So I'm always a few days behind. Like I always find out, oh, episode 4 is out. Oh, okay, well, then I go off and watch it. I don't know that I've been liking it as much as Picard season 1 so far, but I've heard that like right about now is where it really starts to turn on the jets. So I've not seen episode 5 yet, but I'm really enjoying the season so far, and I can't wait to see where it goes. All right, what's next?
All right. Next up from Murray Reich, one of two. While I did like Shazam 2, it's hard to ignore the fact that the whole film flopping is in a tribute to the divisiveness of the critics and audience ratings of the DCEU. Like you always said, winning cures everything. The DCEU has had more misses than hits. Part 2, and that's why I say I agree they should reboot. They've also been too reactionary to each film. Just focus on making each film great without fully reliant on the other future films.
Murray, you are, as they would say in the church circles, preaching to the choir, brother. You're absolutely right. Like historically, the Warner Brothers has been far too reactionary. I mean, that has been the thing. They have sensed a bump in the road or a slight choppiness in the water, and they freak out and they change directions, or something goes right and they can change directions again. And listen, it just got to the point where even showing the world that Henry Cavill as Superman was going to be cameoing and appearing in Black Adam didn't make one lick of difference. Nobody cared. Whose name was not John Campea, who thought it was the most important news in the world. Like, hey, listen, I talked for 3 weeks straight on the John Campea show. Have you heard that Henry Cavill's going to be in Black Adam? It was like the biggest thing in the world to me. But apparently nobody else cared because it didn't motivate anybody to buy tickets. And that's the state. That was the state of the DCU. And then when I hear people crying, still today, oh, they shouldn't be resetting. Listen, how much more evidence and proof do you need that it did not work?
Yeah.
And there's no one person's fault. I'm not pointing fingers at whatever who is the idiot who made the decision, who was running Warner Brothers. Why am I freezing on his name? What's that?
Zaslav?
No, the former guy.
Oh, Toby.
Jason. No, it's Jason Kilar. Jason Kilar. I'm not even putting all the fingers at Jason Kilar, the idiot who made the decision to put all the movies on HBO Max the same time it goes to theaters. I'm not pointing the fingers at any of the particular directors. It's just overall, it didn't work. And the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. they have run it into the ground to the point now that even showing that Henry Cavill's going to be in it didn't change a thing. Even putting in your TV commercials that Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is going to pop up in it, it didn't change a thing. It didn't make one extra person go to see it because at this point, nobody cares. They've run it into the ground and they need to restart.
And you're not pointing fingers.
But I am pointing my finger.
But if you had to,
I had to.
who would it be?
Oh, God. You know what?
No, there's like a whole lineup that should.
And you know who's partly responsible?
Looks like Ray. That's what you're pointing at.
Him. You know who's partly responsible? Us, the fans.
Yeah.
Us, the fans. Who I think have kind of in a little bit forgotten our place as fans.
I should be buying my own movie tickets. I'm just letting you buy my movie tickets. Maybe that would help.
No, it's still
Maybe that would change their
It's
fortune.
still the same amount of money going to it.
All right, what's next?
Matt Murphy.
That's right.
Matt Murphy writes, "Hi guys, what do you think is the future of Star Wars movies at Disney?" Don't know. I don't think audiences care much about Star Wars content that doesn't feature characters from the originals and prequels. Andor is great, but low viewership, and Mando has Luke and Boba.
Yeah, Andor, you watch the next season of Andor, the viewership's going to go up because it's going to get a lot of awards consideration. And by the way, they showed the Nielsen, the Samba rating showed that as Andor went on, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Was it Mandalorian numbers? No, but they got bigger and bigger and bigger. You watch, like it's like one of the best things they've done. Here's the thing. You know, I've always complained that Star Wars keeps shrinking the universe. And I say this is the test of how you know if you live in a big city or in a small town. When you walk out your front door, how long does it take you to bump into somebody you know? If you can walk around for a couple of hours and not run into anybody you know, you're probably in a pretty big city. If you step outside and on your sidewalk, you run into 3 people you know, you're probably in a very tiny town. And the thing with Star Wars for the past bunch of years is that every time we walk through the doors of a Star Wars project, we're constantly running into people we already knew. You want to show how about Boba Fett? And don't get me wrong, I'm glad they did a Boba Fett. I want to show, hey, look, there's Obi-Wan. Hey, everybody, look, there's Luke. Hey, look, everybody, there's the Millennium Falcon. Look, I'm not saying there's any one of those particular things. It's just that that's all it's been. So Star Wars has failed over the past 10 years to expand the universe, and they just kept doubling down on the nostalgia of the familiar. And that's why everything that's come out, even the upcoming Ahsoka, which by the way, I am looking forward to because I love Rosario Dawson's performance as the character, but even that, we're going into Star Wars, and again, it's the familiar. It's the familiar. Everything's the familiar. They have failed to expand the universe, and therefore they have conditioned all of Star Wars to just be nothing but the familiar. Now, why do you think we keep going back to fucking Tatooine every 5 minutes?
It's a nice climate.
I mean, every 5 minutes, we got to be back on Tatooine again. They need to start expanding it, and they need to do it with movies. And who knows, maybe at Star Wars Celebration, they'll announce a movie that will expand the universe that 3 months later they'll announce has been canceled.
Tatooine, the movie.
Tatooine, the movie. The saga of Tatooine.
Unlike some people, they like sand.
That's right. Not everybody does.
All right,
what's next?
Anonymous writes, "I believe the new head of Lucasfilm is in place, and he, she, or they said no to Lindelof version of the film. I think it is not as big of a deal as some people are making it to be, especially since Lucasfilm never officially announced the film."
Yeah, but they created writers' rooms. It was all things. But I was having a conversation with somebody the other day where I kind of said, I wouldn't be shocked to find out that they actually already do have the new person in charge. And it's just everything right now is just a cover that Kathleen Kennedy is going to stay officially in her role until a few months after Indiana Jones 5 comes out. But really the new person in charge is maybe already making the decisions. Again, that is not based on anything that I can back up or fact. That is just me as an individual film fan speculating. Okay. But I think there might be a little something to what you just said. Again, maybe not, probably not, but I think there's a chance. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous writes, "With the next episode titled The Foundling and co-written by Dave and John, I think we will find out who got him out of the temple. Who do you think it is? My bold prediction is Quinlan Voss."
I don't think we talked about that last year. I don't think they'll go that direction, but that is certainly one of the viable choices. I also heard, and I don't know if this is true, that tonight's episode, for us in Los Angeles, is tonight because it comes out at midnight our time, that tonight's episode is 25 minutes.
Oh, it's a long one.
the longer ones. Make sure you go to the bathroom before it starts. Now that's 25 minutes minus the credits. So maybe in total it'll say 31 minutes or something like that. And I don't know if that's true. I hope that's wrong. I almost hope they don't show us who saved Grogu tonight because I felt no build up to it. Like none. Listen, at some point they got to tell us who it was. And Quinlan Vos, perfectly possible. The only person I don't want it to be is Anakin because that totally retcons everything we know about Anakin's mindset and where he was at the time. So I hope they don't do that. But other than that, I mean, listen, late night alum in the live chat just said, I don't know if they're joking, but hey, it's just said R2D2. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we find out it was R2D2 that rolled in there and got him out.
I just want it to be Anakin so bad now.
It's so
and I want you to record your reaction.
You want to see my reaction to them doing that? That would be
make a
so
great
dumb.
show tomorrow.
Oh my God. All right, what's next?
Sorry to the other kids he sliced in half. Chuck the Mystery writes, hey, John, with a 2025 release date, we have to assume that Superman has been cast for a while now, but how far along would the film potentially be in its production stages at this point? 2 years is not a long time for a film as effects heavy as Superman.
Production, they have not started production yet, but they are well underway pre-production. And while, again, there is nothing that backs this up, pure speculation, I believe that the new Superman's actually already been cast. It's much like the Ben Affleck thing with Batman when by the time they announced him, years later it was revealed he had actually signed the deal 6 months earlier than when they finally announced him. I do believe the new Superman's been picked. There's going to be a lot of stories out there that say they're still looking for their Superman. I don't believe it or buy it, but that might be the case. But production has not yet started. They are still in the pre-production stage. But that's the thing. The more work you do in pre-production, the faster production will go. If you have a good, solid, fundamentally sound pre-production stage and you do all the things you need to do, production goes a lot smoother.
Case in point, The Flash.
9 years. 9 years.
They wanted to be thorough.
All right, what's next?
All right, Chuck the Mystery. Also assuming that we hear about the casting of Superman and probably Batman and Robin at Comic-Con, do you think Gunn will also reveal supporting cast at that point, such as Lois Lane, Perry White, Alfred Pennyworth, etc.?
You know what? I think you can't blow your proverbial load, right? Like, you go to Comic-Con and you drop a couple of bombs, right? But
Ray
you
does
don't
every Comic-Con.
you don't sploosh everything you got.
That sound happens too.
You don't,
Every once in a while.
every once in a while. You don't sploosh everything at once. You gotta pace out things like that to keep the name of the project in the buzz and everybody talking. So I think at Comic-Con they do announce who the new Superman is. Maybe not Batman and Robin, but maybe who Superman is, plus maybe one or two more projects. Because remember, James Gunn didn't even say that was all those announcements they made. That was even the entire roster of part one. They said this is just part of it. So maybe they'll announce one or two more projects. Maybe it's a Lobo thing. Jason Momoa will come out on stage. Maybe. I mean, we're guessing. So we'll see. All right, what's next?
All right, Alan Renshaw writes, with Maestro at the movies happening a week after Indy 5 release date, is it a foregone conclusion that we get the Indy theme played at the concert this year? Hearing that theme played at the ball would be magical and would get a big cheer out of the crowd. I think that he usually does do the Raiders March.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Alan Renshaw's talking about, every year John Williams does at the Hollywood Bowl a concert called The Maestro of the Movies. And that's John Williams. And he'll play a lot of great classic Hollywood pieces. Then he'll play a lot of his own classic Hollywood pieces and all that kind of stuff. And actually, he only does about half the concert now because he's in his 90s.
Yeah.
So now normally a conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic by the name of David Newman, who is Alfred Newman's son. And Alfred Newman was John Williams's mentor. So there's a connection there. So Alfred Newman kind of mentored John Williams. Now John Williams has David Newman. So David Newman is there every year and he conducts like the first half of the show till intermission. And then John Williams come out in the second half. Here's the thing. While I haven't heard him play the Superman theme in like 4 years, the Indiana Jones theme gets played every year without fail. That is the Imperial March, the main Star Wars theme. Like there are a couple of things that the Harry Potter theme, there's a couple he does every year without fail. And Indiana Jones is one of them. So 100% they'll do the Indiana Jones theme, especially with Indy 5 coming out. All right, what's next?
Okay, Jesse has a turtle writes, "Hey guys, I sent a 3-part thank you chat to the team the other day and saw it got skipped. So I apologize if I did. Just wanted to show my gratitude to the channel."
I don't recall seeing it. I certainly don't think we skipped over it or anything like that. Maybe it didn't come through or anything like that. That does happen sometimes. Like, unfortunately, we're dealing with systems that are not our own proprietary systems. And you've heard us complain and talk sometimes about whether it's a YouTube issue or a Stream Elements issue. But anyway, if you did send in those things to thank us, we love those. Those are our favorite kind of messages. So we're definitely not going to skip over those. So our apologies if for one reason or another it didn't come through. All right, what's next?
All right. Stubborn McShave writes, "It's even worse for Shazam 2 internationally. Dan Merle reported that Shazam 2 opened to 77 markets compared to 79 markets for Shazam. But Shazam 2 had 66% lower revenue internationally. 34.6 million compared to 102 million. That's a huge drop."
It is a huge drop. You know, Dan is actually one of the best guys online with box office analysis. Dan's fantastic at that stuff. And yeah, it's just bad news across the board for Shazam. And it's just, again, it's really unfortunate because it's a good movie. It's a good, look, all film is subjective. So some people probably saw it and maybe thought, we didn't think it was very good. Okay, that's fair. That's the wonderful thing about being film fans. We all see things, some we like and some others don't like, and sometimes verse, and that's all fine. To me, it was a really good movie. Not as good as the first, but really fun, entertaining, enjoyable, light, appropriately, like had some good heartwarming moments and all that kind of stuff. Some great fights. But it is what it is. It is really unfortunate, the results it's getting.
And I guess we discovered why Jonathan hasn't watched the movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to the ticket booth. Can I get a ticket to
It's Ken, kill me. All right, what's next? Bonus points to anybody who knew what that reference was.
Oh, here we go, Shazam.
Tracy writes, "It feels like there's a bit of concerted effort to place the blame for Black Adam on Shazam, underperforming at Dwayne Johnson's feet. Stories coming out that he blocked certain crossover opportunities. Don't know the behind the scenes details, but this feels a bit unfair."
I mean, listen, I think there is a kernel of truth. I mean, look, Dwayne Johnson didn't even really try to hide it. I mean, he was making a power play he wanted to take over DC, I think. And why not? There's nothing wrong with having ambition. And Dwayne Johnson has built his career being driven by the fuel of ambition. And that's why he's the success that he is. But, you know, I think that kind of came out that he was trying to kind of make that play. And he did want to make DC all about him and Superman, which, hey, I'm good with anybody wanting to make the DCU about Henry Cavill being Superman.
Yeah, me too.
So I think that's where some of that comes from. But again, what we were saying earlier is even if that's true, and even if he blocked Shazam cameoing in Black Adam, and even if he's the one who vetoed at the last second having Justice Society members pop up in Shazam, which I think would have been great. But even if that's true, and we don't know for sure that it is, did it really make all that big of a difference? I propose that it did not. I mean, like, it would have been a big difference if they had written the script for Shazam 2. It was going to be Shazam versus Black Adam, and it was going to be all that kind of stuff. And then 3 days before shooting, Dwayne Johnson said, "Nah, I don't think so."
Right.
That would have changed everything. And then maybe it'd be more fair to put some blame at the feet of Dwayne Johnson. But again, with the stories the way they are, and we don't even know if the stories are true, but even if they're true, did they make that big of a difference? I don't think as much of this responsibility lies at Dwayne's feet, to be honest with you. Granted, I'm a Dwayne Johnson fanboy, but I really don't think it is. All right, what's next?
All right, this is our final one here. Professor Adam Brashear writes, "Hey, John and crew, shrinking on Apple TV is fast becoming one of my favorite shows. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, I think I must be losing it when I find myself questioning whether I like Harrison Ford in this role more than I liked him in Han Solo. Oh, as Han Solo."
Listen, you guys, if you've been watching the show regularly lately, you've heard me talk about this show that I was late to the party for. I think it got 5 episodes in before I finally decided to sit down and watch it. Anne was telling me it was great from day one, but I didn't watch it. I was not interested in this new Jason Segel, Harrison Ford show called Shrinking. I didn't think it looked all that interesting. It is fabulous. It's fantastic. The writing in this show is next level. And Harrison Ford, I honestly cannot remember the last time. I'm not saying this is the best thing Harrison Ford's ever done, but I'm just saying I can't remember off the top of my head the last time I loved Harrison Ford in something this much. Like, he should win an Emmy for this. Jason Segel is fantastic. The whole cast is wonderful. It's unbelievably funny while also being pretty heartwarming at the same time. The basic setup is this. Jason Segel plays a therapist who's, when we start the show, his wife had died a year earlier. And he's got a 16-year-old daughter, a 16 or 17-year-old daughter who looks like Wing from Iron Fist. She looks like a younger version of the character Wing from anyway. And he works in a therapy office where Harrison Ford is like his mentor, and there's another therapist in there as well. And it's just them trying to deal with life. And Harrison Ford just recently, the character he plays, was just recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the same time. He's still completely functioning, but he's got Alzheimer's now. That's the girl who plays Jason. You see what I mean by she looks like Christine Wing, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just telling you, this show, every episode I watch, I am absolutely floored by the top-notch quality of it. It's unbelievable. And the dynamic between Harrison Ford and Jason Segel is absolutely priceless. Guys, seriously, if you have not watched Shrinking yet, it's on Apple TV. You absolutely must. And by the way, while we're on the topic of Apple TV, can I throw out another recommendation? Do you guys mind? We got a minute here?
Go for it.
Mm-hmm. Eugene Levy's The Reluctant Traveler.
Yeah.
I didn't care about it. Ann and I were camping and we were like, we had the iPad open saying, let's watch something before going to sleep. And we put on Eugene Levy's The Reluctant Traveler. Gold. Absolute gold. The basic premise is this. It's Eugene Levy. It's a reality travel show, but Eugene Levy hates travel. He hates travel. He hates the outdoors. He hates anything that looks remotely dangerous. And he goes to all these places around the world, and it's fantastic. Have any of you guys watched any of the episodes of this yet?
I haven't seen it yet, but there's an episode of the podcast Smartless where they interview Eugene Levy, and he talks about it at the end, because that's what he has most recently coming out in his career. Right. And it sounds great. I mean, when he was telling them, he was talking to the producers, he's like, guys, I really don't think this is for me. I really don't like, So he was boo-hooing it, and he said when he hung up, they were like, yeah, so he's perfect.
It's like the very first episode, he goes to Finland. He goes to the Nordic outback of Finland. And it's just really fun. And it's legitimately just a good travel show. Like if you're somebody who's kind of into travel shows or food shows, it's legitimately on its own, just a good travel show. But having Eugene Levy be the one who's doing it, who kind of hates the idea of doing it, it's really fun to watch. It's really, really fun. So I recommend 2 shows here, and they're both Apple TV Plus shows. One is Shrinking. That's the number one. And then the other one, if you're into those type of foodie or travel shows or whatever, check out Eugene Levy's The Reluctant Traveler. I think you might get a kick out of it. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those tips. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Also, we didn't get through all of the ones that got sent in. There's still a bunch of the ones that you guys have sent in. And don't worry, we're going to get to those with an open mic a little bit later today. And once we get through all those questions, we're going to take some live questions from our audience as well. So come on back and join us for open mic a little bit later this afternoon. So guys, don't forget to come on back and join us again for tomorrow's episode of the John Campea. And for everybody in the room, Ray Ora, running the show, Jonathan Voico, Taylor Gonzalez, my name's John Campea. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.